Hare Krishna. Welcome to our penultimate session of day 2 of the 11th Annual BBT Africa Conference. We have had a stellar lineup of guests throughout the day, right from the beginning of the morning. And today we are, at the present moment, honored with another very special guest, His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu, who will be taking us through the topic of book distribution in all circumstances. Now, before Vaisesika Prabhu takes over, I just want to introduce him. Vaisesika Prabhu currently resides in the San Francisco Bay Area with his wife, Nirakula Mata, also a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Together they have developed an ISKCON community of 300 families in Silicon Valley, which is based on the study and distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. He is an initiating guru in ISKCON. He travels widely to teach the tenets of devotional service and the great art of distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. He is the author of the book, Our Family Business. He's a BBT trustee and head of BBT's Marketing, Communications, and Innovation Department. Vaisesika Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's such a pleasure to see you. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Prabhu. Now, Vaisesika Prabhu, throughout our BBT Africa conference, right from the first session of day 1, everyone has been asking us, the world has changed. We are not able to go out at the moment and distribute Srila Prabhupada's books physically. The circumstances are completely different. How can we continue to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books with this new normal? And I've been asking everyone who is joining us on Facebook and on this Zoom webinar session, you have to tune into Vaisesika Prabhu's session because this question will be answered in detail. So with that, I want to hand over to you so you can guide us through what you have been thinking about and what you have been doing with book distribution under these conditions that we are under.
Okay, Mukundangri Prabhu, let's talk about it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
First of all, since the title is Book Distribution in All Circumstances, maybe we should talk about what a circumstance is. According to the dictionary that I have on my computer, circumstance is a fact or condition connected with or relevant to an event or action. Also, an event or fact that causes or helps to cause something to happen. And from the etymological dictionary, it means a fact related to another fact and modifying it without affecting its essential nature. When you talk about the new normal, there are always modifying factors to the environment that we're in. It's not that now is well, that's not true. It's an unusual time now, obviously. But things are always changing. The world's always changing. The circumstances are always changing. So the principle has to be fixed. And Mukundangri Prabhu, where'd you go?
Here I am. I'm still here.
Oh, okay. It's easier if I can see you.
Okay.
Unless you have to, if you have to disappear, it's okay.
No. If you
see if
prefer
anybody
me,
else I can see. It's
on.
hard speaking into a black screen. So how do we adjust to all circumstances with the first of all, understanding the importance of what we're doing and then adjusting to whatever happens. I think one of the ways that we've thought about this particular circumstance that we're in now, referring to the pandemic and most devotees being locked down, is that we take it as an opportunity, that Krishna wants us to see new ways to develop. And it has certainly been a great opportunity for us meaning, when I say us, I'm starting with talking about my home base here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley, which is dedicated to exporting whatever kinds of ideas we can develop in our laboratory here. And for years, we've thought about developing a robust system on the internet and also having a follow-up that after each person we meet, we're able to have a complete suite of services to offer that person. But the implementation has been lackluster until now. So when the pandemic first came, we decided that we would put our full attention into developing alternative ways to do book distribution, and it's gone well. So that is a preamble. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all of you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to share my screen and go through a few slides to illustrate the points I'm making, if I may. Hare Krishna. So, one of my favorite quotes, especially for times like this, where Prabhupada emphasizes that if we go on with determination, then Krishna will give us the strength to increase. Our movement is really based on taking risks. We're an entrepreneurial movement, it's spiritual entrepreneurialism, where we take risks for Krishna. And our outreach, preaching, is an excellent place to experiment and to take risks. And what I've found is that those who take these kinds of risks to try to distribute books in all types of circumstances, try new things, feel a little bit afraid at first, because when we take a risk, we are not sure what's going to happen. We fear the future. But then Lord Chaitanya comes to the rescue and helps us. And in filling that gap with Lord Chaitanya's direction and mercy, then the devotees get more enthusiasm to try new things. And they start to realize that it's not me who's doing this, it's actually Lord Chaitanya. And I feel that this is the main ingredient for our movement. A movement has to move. And that's where the movement is, in going forward in any circumstance to try to distribute books. I'll focus on that for now. And if we try in all circumstances, then we'll find out that Krishna is the one who gives us the strength and the intelligence. Speaking of principles, these are the principles that guarantee success in all circumstances. The first is that your sadhana must be strong, because we're distributing the overflow of what we have. So strict, serious, and sincere sadhana. If we keep in mind that by attending to the details of our sadhana, then all other good things will happen, including that we'll get a taste, which is the most vital, because once we have taste, we can have absorption, which leads to advancement, and then we have some overflow to distribute. So when you see somebody, let's just say you're in a car, you drive somewhere. I just remember being in Africa, and we were driving along in a caravan, a few cars, that is, together. And we stopped along the way, and I saw a man taking in the view. He had been riding on a motorcycle, so I just felt enthused to jump out and go and meet him and show him a book. And where did that enthusiasm come from? It came from the Association of Devotees. It came from the rounds that I chanted in the morning. Otherwise, in that split second, I might think, why take the trouble? He probably won't do it anyway. Probably won't be interested anyway. Or, I don't want to face rejection. So what pushes us over the edge where we say, no, I'm going to do it anyway, is our sadhana. And that feeling of, this is nice. I'm tasting something. That pushes aside any hesitation that we have. So the whole book distribution movement is really based on our sadhana. When we're able to hear and chant, for instance, from the Bhagavad Gita, and we feel that this is Krishna speaking to me directly, then we have impetus to give it to other people. So remembering the day starts the night before, that go to bed on time. This is one of the best sadhana practices, is be careful about what time you go to bed, and then it helps to have time to really focus on japa. Keep coming back to good japa. This is where the genesis of the Sankirtan movement is. This is a kind of a joke. Make japa great again. It's related to a so-called leader in our country who wears a hat, make America great again. And we win with the basics. The basics of sadhana are the most important. A chapter a day of Bhagavad Gita is something that Prabhupada advocated, and everybody's heard of Bhagavad Gita, and many people say they've read Bhagavad Gita, but who's actually read Bhagavad Gita carefully? And who reads it every day? A suggestion Prabhupada gave numerous times. So at least read one chapter of Bhagavad Gita a day, or at least chant the verses in the Bhagavad Gita every day. Prabhupada calls the Bhagavad Gita the Vedic intelligence. And so if you're hearing this Vedic intelligence every day, where will be the question of being deviated by the low impulses of the senses or the whimsy of the mind? You'll be fortified by Bhagavad Gita. Evam buddhi param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatram mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. We'll be able to conquer over the lower self by the higher self through intelligence, because we've fortified it through reading Bhagavad Gita. So it's vital to chant really good japa and to read Bhagavad Gita every day. I recommend chanting at least one chapter a day. And in Japan, this is a famous mountain called Fujisan. Chiri motsumareba yamatanaru. There's a saying in Japan that tiny grains of sand piled one upon another will add up to a mountain. So in our sadhana, no matter what little we can do, if we do it nicely, then it adds up. And we can have strength like that of a mountain. So this is one of Prabhupada's suggestions that I mentioned previously. And there are numerous other cases where he said, read Bhagavad Gita every day. It should be read by my students. At least one chapter per day. Why not do it? And see what happens. It makes room for enthusiastic devotional service. To that end, we developed readchad.com. It's an organization. Lots of people together chant the same chapter every month, and we all compare notes and share realizations. The other one is BSH page by page. Once I saw Prabhupada's books, I thought, how could we read all these? There's so many. And then I heard a talk by Brian Tracy, and he was saying anything that looks daunting can be overcome by breaking it into small tasks. And then I thought, okay, I'll break my reading into small tasks, and that means how many pages a day do I have to read to finish the Bhagavatam? So I started with that. I counted all the pages in the Bhagavatam, and then found out that to read the Bhagavatam in 1 year, you only need to read 41 pages a day. And if you want to do it in 5 years, you only have to read 8 pages a day. And we made this app, BSH page by page, that you can download, and you can pick any of Prabhupada's books and then figure out how many pages a day you have to read in order to finish each one. I find this is highly motivating. I take one of these stickers you can get at a supply store that sticks again and again, and I write the number of pages that I'm shooting for, and then I put it in the book. For instance, if you're going to say 5 pages, you put it 5 pages forward, and then keep reading until you hit that marker. But to be on track for reading Prabhupada's books is really vital for being able to distribute Prabhupada's books in all circumstances. Law number 2 is you must get books, because we've done studies in major universities all over the world, double-blind studies, and through these studies we've come to understand that you can't distribute books you don't have. It's impossible. So you have to get books, and it's a miracle that we have these books in the first place. They were originally written on palm leaves, and they had to be copied by scribes, but somehow we have a window of opportunity right now where we can get books of all kinds. So they're in various languages. Get the kind of languages that you need so that you can distribute in all circumstances. Don't count out any part of the population just because there's not that many of them. Be ready for everybody so that when you meet somebody, you can accommodate them by giving them a book in their own language. If you don't speak multiple languages, don't worry. There are language cards that you can download at distributebooks.com. And it's actually easier to distribute books to people that don't speak your language than it is if you do speak their language. And you can do that by using language cards. We've had a yatra in Puri and Mayapur over the last 7 years, and it's a Sankirtan yatra. So when we go to Puri with 100 devotees, we focus on distributing books wherever we go, and we had a lot of Chinese, Japanese devotees, what to speak of Americans and Europeans, and none of them spoke Bengali or Oriyan. But because we had the language cards, we distributed over 5,000 books in Puri and Mayapur just by using language cards. Law 3 is the more you show, the more you sell. So when you take the trouble to display books, to show them to people, then they'll take them, because little Jiva is actually just wandering around the universe looking for something. And when people advertise by using billboards, hoardings, or putting advertisements on social media, they're counting on this fact that the jivas look at shiny objects and then they develop an attachment. Dhyato vishayam pumsam sangasteshu pujayate. There's a sangha created when somebody looks at something and contemplates it. So when we show our books, we take the trouble just to make them available in public so people can see them. They'll become attracted to the books, and that happens one-on-one, in displays, going door to door, knocking on people's doors, approaching people here, there, and everywhere, special events. And when we show the books, then sincere souls come and they take them. Number 4 law is you must organize. Yes, you can do book distribution as a hobby, and you can do a little bit here and there. Your operation may be herky-jerky, but as soon as you use organizational skills, as Prabhupada did, here's the 7th purpose of ISKCON as an example. He planned it out. He had a clear vision, mission, and you make appointments so that the whole community can be involved, or your family can be involved, or you can be clearly dedicated to going for book distribution at a particular time or date. Then you're ready to go. Goals are extremely potent. And when we make goals for book distribution, this is part of organization, then miraculously the whole yatra benefits, because it's that point in time that we're shooting for in a particular goal, and filling that gap with doing whatever we have to do to reach it, that helps the whole organization grow. That's why book distribution has become so foundational to our movement, or one reason in any case, is that with book distribution, all of the programs grow, because it gives us that kind of sense that, well, let me put it like this. As we're filling the gaps for book distribution, trying to reach the goals, we're growing. We find out what's working, what's not working, and when we find out what's not working and fix it, then the whole organization benefits. Setting goals, also being meticulous as far as managing inventory. This is a part of organization, and follow-up strategy is vital, because when the devotees know that there's a reliable follow-up for the people that they're meeting, they'll be twice as enthusiastic when they meet them, because they know they're taking them somewhere that will be effective. And building team spirit. I've found that through teamwork and emphasizing team over individual, we grow much better and much faster. This is a guiding principle. What gets measured gets improved. So taking time to measure what we're doing in all its different aspects, and as soon as we're able to measure it, then we're able to see how can we improve it. Means do a lot of analyzing of data. And for today's particular topic, this quote is apt. Every situation properly perceived becomes an opportunity. So when the pandemic started, we adopted this as our mantra: never waste a good crisis. And fail forward fast. Don't worry about exactly what's working perfectly. Just try to find something that works by moving forward. So here are 4 programs that have been working well during the pandemic: calling parties, social media, care packages, and Padra campaign. So the calling parties evolved because we couldn't go on the street anymore because of the virus, and then we took to the phone. In the first couple weeks, we found that it was marginally successful, except for devotees were timid about making phone calls. I remembered from my business days that when there are phone calls to be made, which are usually important in all kinds of businesses, contacting people, recontacting them, when you put everybody together in one room for a calling party, then there's no hesitation, and the devotees feel happy about making the calls. So we applied the same principle, but how would we do it? Because we have to be socially distanced. We did it through calling parties. And here's just a little snippet.
Mataji. This is Swati here from Dallas. So one contact, they will take Krishna book 4-volume set, and they are asking for one catalog for all the books available.
So two more sets, Malini.
Big chunks of cake, baby.
Mazi, I was just wondering, they said that they wanted to take a CC set. I was just wondering if, do we just ship it to their home?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. I'll just ask Prabhu for his address.
Thank you, Srivastava.
I'm so happy to share with you, Amrita. Amazing. That's really wow.
Mata, she's recording this. I want to know how he did the CC.
He did not let me record.
So that video was created more than a month, well, maybe about 6 weeks ago. Since then, they've evolved quite a bit, and the devotees come on a Zoom call together from all over the world for a couple of hours, and it's developed into a quite an organized system where there are lists of contacts that everyone can work from. They get assigned contacts. And there's also an infrastructure where they have payment methods all lined up. There are scripts, so everybody knows how to do it. And we've also been successful reaching out on social media as well. We had a marathon called the Bhaktivinoda Thakur Marathon. We've been having it every year since 2007. So we like to have 2 marathons a year. And this time we propagated it on a wider level. And the moniker here says, distribute from home, all you need is a phone. So we're emphasizing the stay home, but use your phone. And this is a video, it was advertising the Bhaktivinoda Thakur Marathon.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Get ready for the Bhaktivinoda Thakur Book Distribution Marathon. That's lockdown Sankirtan. You can distribute books from home. All you need is a phone. We're going to have calling parties, so you won't feel any hesitation to join. It's going to be fun. People need this knowledge. Let's give it to them. And at the same time, we can develop a new pipeline through which millions of Srila Prabhupada's books will flow through the internet and by phone. It starts on the Shringa Chaturdasi and goes all the way to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day. Let's make something out of this crisis. Let's do really big on book distribution for Bhaktivinoda Thakur and help the world in a way that nobody else can. Thanks. Join us. I'll be there, and I can't wait to see you there too. It starts now.
So during that marathon, Team London, UK, did 1,235 books in 4 sets. North America did 25,344 books and 514 sets of Bhagavatams. Actually, at ISV, we doubled what we normally do. And the collections were way more than double. More Lakshmi, twice as much book, twice as many books distributed and so forth. Team New Zealand, 550 books, 6 sets. Here's an actual photograph, a screenshot of devotees. You can see that most of them are on the phone or they have a very serious look. They're in the yagya right now. You can see that. And they're all, looking at the screen, who's the next person I'm going to call? Many of them are on the phone. We stay on mute unless somebody needs to ask a question. They do have those devotees who are monitoring. So if you have a specific question, they'll jump off into another room with you and give you information about how to close a deal or how to get the payment. They're all there ready. It's all set up. So we'd have these for 2 hours, a 2-hour sprint. And devotees are happy to jump on for 2 hours and just try their level best. We found that a lot of kids, here's a physical calling party. This is in Soho. They picked up on this idea, so they're already together in the ashram. So they would sit together, and here they are with their scripts in hand and calling on the phone. And as you saw from their scores, they did quite well. So, when you're sitting in this environment calling, there's no hesitation because it's fun. And, if somebody says no, then you just look at everyone else and laugh and say, okay, call the next one. Here's one of the recipients. Devotees were actually using these kinds of pictures to great effect that when someone would receive a set in the mail, or we drop them off at their house without, any physical contact, then we'd ask them to send us a picture or any kind of feedback they had and a permission to share their picture. And we'd use these to share with other people who are thinking about getting a set, or these are action photos, people who've just bought books. And another very successful program has been care packages. Devotees put together, it's evolved from this, but this is a video that explains the early conception. Oh, we'll skip that, there's no sound. Okay, so care packages means devotees put together a little combination of books, and they would call people up and ask them if they'd like to receive a care package during the pandemic, and then if they say yes, they just tell them that we accept any donations if they feel like it, and people were very happy to receive them. Over here on this side, these are just examples of people who had received them and were sending back messages appreciating them. Some temples send out thousands of them, and they got really good results. This is one of them for frontline heroes. They put together care packages and distributed them to people that were risking their lives during the pandemic. The other program that became successful was ebooks. Ebooks have been there for a while. The devotees in the BBT behind the scenes have worked very diligently to put together ebooks, but they weren't in a form that was very easy to distribute. They were only sitting on Amazon, and when an occasional person would come by, they could buy them from Amazon. But we needed them for distribution, so we worked for several weeks and put together a way that we could, with Amazon, buy ebook codes for Prabhupada's books in bulk and then redistribute them. And we also were able to combine books together. Previously, you couldn't buy a set of Bhagavatams as an ebook. You'd have to buy each canto individually, but now it's cobbled together, so you can sell a whole set of Bhagavatams. And the results have been really good. During the marathon, we sold from ISV 600 ebooks and 43 Bhagavatam sets. And so that's a viable program in North America and maybe one or two other countries. And we're looking to expand it worldwide. Team Toronto also got in on the act with ebooks. And the other program that's been very successful is Bhadra. Bhadra is the day upon which, when you give away a set of Bhagavatams, that you get the great gift of going back home, back to Godhead. So going to Goloka, one who gives away a set of Bhagavatams on a golden throne gets the gift of going back home, back to Godhead. So this we picked up on 4 years ago, and several places, India, UK, took it up, but it's grown in popularity. We brought it to the GBC several times. This is an endorsement by the GBC this year, 2019 in Mayapur, who are all behind it. It's now a calendar event for ISKCON and will continue to be so. That this day is the day upon which we all in ISKCON all over the world aim to distribute combinedly a certain number of sets. This year the goal is to distribute 10,000 sets of Bhagavatams. The last 2 years we've done 7,000 worldwide. So we should do much more this year because it's easier to distribute sets of Bhagavatams during the pandemic. And here's an example of Bhagavatam set distribution online by kids. Oops. This particular child grew up in the movement at our temple at ISV. He's been distributing books since he was 5. And he sold multiple sets of Bhagavatams by phone. Hey, come on.
So, let's say I opened it, and so basically this here, that's the translation. Everything else is, there is the English Sanskrit, and then
So distribution over Zoom, they would call up, make an appointment, and then have a presentation like this, and then people could buy the full sets. And this video has sold dozens of sets. This is a child who grew up hearing she heard the whole Bhagavatam in the womb, and since she was born, she's been part of the Sankirtan party. And this is her video. Of course, her parents made it, but she's very much involved in the process. And just by this video, the devotees have sold dozens of sets of Bhagavatams.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Rayana Vishkya Naram Seva Narotama Preminityasam Tato Jayamudiyaya Nistaprab Desu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavyash Loke Bhaktir Vapati Nastuki. Parikshit Maharaj. The Goswami is giving something to Parikshit Maharaj. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devaki Pastor Kamsa wanted to kill Devaki. Vasudeva told no. He put them into the region, 400 form Vishnu form. Nanda Baba is celebrating Krishna's birthday. Nanda Baya Jaitniya Ralaka Hatikara Palaka Jaitniya Ralaka Buddham Trenavata carried little child went into the zoom. He was doing zoom. Krishna hold his neck and he fell down. He got died. Mother Yashoda caught Krishna, and this is Krishna Param. He was taking the bitter from here then Bakasur. 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 All the group of friends, they went to the cave of Bakasur. Krishna became bigger and bigger, and Python's tummy broke. He got died. I like all the stories of Moss. Everyone, please read the story. You will like it. Hi, Krishna.
So with the video, you know, the devotees are innovating in different ways. The kids are involved, and it's compelling seeing children presenting Bhagavatam, obviously. So One World Team, the devotees are working towards all of us measuring our results on as one team worldwide, and to that end we also have developed local teams in India, North America, and Europe. And as I mentioned about follow-through, so during the pandemic we developed this Bhakti community, and bhakticommunity.com offers a way to bring people in to the process of bhakti. Here's a video really quick. So there's a website that they can sign up on, and we're finding that when we meet people on the phone who are a little interested, they can then sign up for the beginning bhakti programs, and we have regular classes. They register and then they become part of the community. They have to pay something to come in, so that they're a little serious, at least $1 to be part of it. And from this, we're catching the people who are interested, and they're able to stay in the process. And we're getting really good results from this, people coming in and joining. We have programs that accommodate different levels of spiritual seekers and culturally appropriate and so forth, so that they can feel at home, the right habitat. And now let's just see if there's any questions. And while you're gathering your question, I just want to take a 1-minute break, and I'll be right back.
No problem, Prabhu. I think for all that, everyone who's attending, we clearly Vaisesika Prabhu has put in so much thought, so much intelligence, and invested so much time in formulating these solutions. And I just want to urge everyone who is joining us, to put together your questions. We already have a number of questions that we have lined up that are coming in via our Facebook feed and here on Zoom. And just to sort of reiterate a few points that Vaisesika Prabhu brought up during his presentation, points that I thought were important for me. First of all, the 4 laws of book distribution. First, having good sadhana, good strong sadhana. The second is you can't distribute books if you don't have books, so we need to get books. That's the second law of book distribution. Then the third law is the more you show, the more you sell. And finally, the fourth law of book distribution is to organize, organize, organize. And with the current global situation, Vaisesika Prabhu introduced us or familiarized us with some of the measures that they've been taking, which are fantastic. The calling parties, of course, we have social media, the care packages, what he's been doing with ebooks, and of course the Bhadra campaign, which has been such a success over the last 2 or 3 years. And then the last thing I really loved, which is this aspect of follow-up, this bhakti community. Once we get people interested, to keep their interest and to cultivate and nurture their interest, it's so important to have a community around those people. So Vaisesika Prabhu is back. And Vaisesika Prabhu, I just wanted to thank you again for that presentation. There are a number of questions and comments that have popped up. I just want to read one of these questions from our Zoom webinar attendees. Hare Krishna, thank you for the time. Please, could you share your first experience reading Srila Prabhupada's books? And what advice do you give to first-time readers?
Oh, thank you for that question. My first experience was that I received a Back to Godhead magazine at my house from a friend of mine in high school. And then I read that and was convinced. I also saw an advertisement in the book to get the Sri Upanishad. And so I went to a bookstore nearby and I asked them, it was a spiritual bookstore, I asked them for whatever books they had by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and they gave me Bhagavad Gita as it is, On the Way to Krishna, and Sri Upanishad. And those books were my lifeline to the spiritual world. I had read many other spiritually oriented books, but they were very confusing. But when I read Prabhupada's, the experience was that I had found the right thing. And I was totally convinced by it. And the advice I have for new time readers is set up a system, as I mentioned, to make sure that you read every day so that you're on track. I think it helps to have some kind of regimen that you read a certain number of pages every day, and that way you'll make progress. And you can read by yourself, or it helps also if you have a group of devotees you come together with, read and then stop at intervals and discuss. And there are many things to say about that. In fact, we're coming out with a seminar just next month about reading Prabhupada's books, in which there'll be many more details about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, we've seen how effective group study has been over this time, and thank you for emphasizing that point again. So here's a question from our Facebook audience to you. It's an age-old question about book distribution. How do you overcome rejection when going out on books?
Well, first of all, you have to manage your expectations. If you think that the goal of book distribution is that everybody takes a book, then you'll be disappointed when somebody says no. But if you consider that book distribution is a sacred activity, it's a high sadhana, and then it's an opportunity for purification, then you'll welcome rejection. Because then you'll be able to notice that, oh, my ego just snapped back because somebody didn't do what I wanted them to do. Just like when you fast on a fast day and your stomach says, you know, we're supposed to eat, and then you say, no, we're not, because it's a holy day. So if you don't think I'm going out to sell books, just think I'm going out to honor Lord Chaitanya and walk in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. He did it. He walked around and got rejected. If he can get rejected, I should also, just to follow in his footsteps. And if you go like that and think, what's the lesson behind it, rather than why didn't they do what I wanted, then you won't feel bad when people reject you.
Mm-hmm. There's another question from our Facebook audience, which I guess ties into what you've just said here. They ask, what encouragement could you give to book distributors who are sincere but are not achieving the numbers they aim for, which is something you've just alluded to right now?
Well, I always find it's best to find a slipstream in athletics, like in skating or in running or in cycling. You get behind the leader who's going fast, and there's what's called a slipstream. It cuts the air in front of you, and you're able to actually be pulled along by their power. So it's always best to find somebody who's doing the kind of numbers that you want to do. They're not anything extra special, except for that Krishna's revealed to them. Well, they are extra special, but Krishna's revealed to them something that will help you also. So find people who are doing what you want to do, and then go and serve them and ask questions of them and say, how did you do that? And I've seen it, for instance, at big events. The devotees are all going, and there'll be some person that figures out the mood and the method at that particular, let's say, a concert or something. And other people, even veterans, will come in and say, oh, I can't do as well as I want. So what they'll do is they'll go to find the person who is doing well, and they'll say, what are you saying? And what's the mood? What's the speed? And then they'll say, you got to present it fast. You got to be more friendly. They don't want to hear philosophy. They want to hear jokes. And then you put that together, and then you're off and running also. So find out somebody who's turning, and you will come around.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Prabhu. Here's another question from Facebook, and this question is related to the fourth law of book distribution, organizing, and particularly nurturing those who are new to book distribution. The question is, what advice could you give to someone who is new to book distribution, and enthusiastic to get involved?
My advice would be to go out with a mentor, or, not go out, but stay in and work with a mentor. If you work with a mentor, then that person can easily see the places where you can apply your enthusiasm to make progress. And coaching is really helpful. So find a good coach that can help you through any of the gaps, help you over some of the gaps, and then you'll be successful.
Yeah. Vaisesika Prabhu, there are still a number of questions, but I also want us to touch on a few points that you mentioned directly in your presentation. And one of those points is the power of a team. You've mentioned right now about having a mentor if you're someone new, how coaching is so important. Can you give us what experience you've seen gives a team an advantage over the individual who's trying to, I guess, like endeavor on their own. There's a famous African proverb that just pops into mind in relation to this. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So could you tell us the power of a team and the results that you've seen with working with teams, just as you've shown us in your presentation?
Well, first of all, I noticed from years of book distribution where the individual competition was particularly emphasized. One temple against another, one individual against another. I think it was very inspiring to me at a certain time in my life. But then later on, I started noticing that it was a disincentive for me and also for others. I remember when I first realized it, I've been in Los Angeles at the airport distributing, and there was a process. You'd come home, you'd write your score on a clipboard, and it would be announced the next morning. So I came in and I saw that my score wasn't as big as a couple other people that had put their score down. And I was hesitating. I was thinking, maybe I don't want to put my score down. And then I started thinking about that. Why don't I want to put my score down? It's because I won't be glorified as, the number one. And then I thought, this is wrong. It's really wrong. And then I started thinking that a lot of other people probably feel like that too, especially ones that can't do as well. So when we started our own Sankirtan party from scratch here at ISV, I just said, I know that a lot of people won't get involved when there's individual scores. And one of our main principles is a lot of people each doing a little bit is the most steady of all the models. And so we wanted to get the masses rather than a few individuals, because individuals can come and go. Let's say you've got somebody who's really good at distributing books, and then they make up 50% of your result, and then they decide that they're going to move on in life somewhere. There goes 50% of your program. But if you get hundreds of people and they each do their level best, which is usually a little bit, then you have a model that can continue in perpetuity and gradually increase as well. So when I started the Sankirtan program here at ISV, I didn't even tell anybody about individual scores. We just did group scores, and we emphasized team scores, everybody working together. A senior ISKCON devotee called our temple to complain. He said, this was not Prabhupada's program. He said, you're deviating. And actually the person who answered the phone was a Kurnoth. So he said, well, what's the problem? He said, Prabhupada emphasized competition. So Kurnoth, he's a very intelligent person, he goes, so compete against us. We'll do our system, you do yours, and let's see who wins. And over the years, ISV and this system has emerged as the number one temple, not just in North America, but as far as Lakshmi remittance and book points and so forth, we're up in the top 3 in the world. Just from a tiny, sleepy little community with all householders and children. But it emphasizes this team spirit. And I see that it goes well with the whole idea of unity and diversity, because everyone knows who's doing well individually and they see it. You don't have to push it so hard, as I think it disincentivizes, if that's a word. It's a disincentive for the ones who can only do a little bit at the time.
Mm-hmm. I like the emphasis on having everyone contribute a little, and that is the long-term strategy. And the second point I'd like us to touch on in your presentation is the importance of follow-up. And I really, really like the idea that you've come up with the Bhakti community website where people come in because so many times we meet, you know, prior to this lockdown, we would meet people on the street, distribute a book to them, and then, you know, they disappear off into the distance. So the importance of follow-up and why it's important for growing and cultivating our communities.
Whenever we present something, we should always have a next event they can join to. Whenever you give a talk, there should always be what's the next thing you can come to. If you distribute books, what's the next thing you can come to? So this creates a continuum through which people can advance. And many people want that. In fact, I did some videos and then we boosted them on Facebook a while back, and they you know, they got some of them 100,000 views, and then lots of people started contacting us, and we didn't have anything for them to do. They say, you know, what do I do now? It's like, I don't know, watch the video again, you know. So we started realizing you have to be ready for people. If you're going to go out and advertise and you're going to give them something that stimulates their sense for spiritual advancement, then you know, have a way to take care of them. So it takes meticulous work. Actually building that kind of community is like building a building. You have to start with a blueprint, and you have to keep refining it, and you have to have a way to bring everybody in. So it's vital. And during this pandemic, we developed the wherewithal to focus our attention on this, because we saw that nobody's going to come to the temple for a long time. And now, where do we meet them where they live, where they can actually be part of it? And we saw a couple other programs, like in New York with Kashtuba and Raghunath, that have been very we looked at a number of programs. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, like Mind Valley. They do $30 million a year. Jay Shetty, $5 million a year. I'm just talking about in contributions from people who join their program because it's so popular. And in these programs, there's a variety of classes and events that they can participate in. And we're doing these things anyway, but if you cobble them together in a portal so everyone can come in and take advantage of it and feel part of a community, then you have a winning combination, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So now it seems as though everyone has got their organizer hat on, and we are getting a lot of questions about organizing. So they're pretty detailed questions. The first one I'll field for you is a very straight and direct one. How big should our teams be? What size is a standard size book distribution team?
There is no standard size. In fact, our mantra here at ISV is it's not so important what we do as how we do it. Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, birds fly in the sky as high as they are able. But because the sky's unlimited, it's practically irrelevant how high you go. So there have always been, in the history of ISKCON, big teams, but then they fall apart, or they become, the mood becomes corrupted one way or another, start selling stuff to make more money, instead of focusing on sadhana and making the book distribution a kind of high sadhana. So if it's one or two people, of course you need at least two for a team. But if you have two people, that's very nice, and you work together, cooperate. If you have three, that's nice. If you have 300, it's nice too, as long as the mood is correct. Because we're more interested in the proper mood than we are in just sheer production.
Yeah, yeah. And the next question is someone who is clearly an organizer, and they're, you know, itching to get started. They ask, first they say, incredible presentation, Prabhu. Is it possible for us to get access to your videos or media used in the presentation, which will extend the exciting and professional content of Srila Prabhupada's books. So in other words, they're already thinking, how can I, sell this idea or share this idea with my fellow devotees and garner their energy so that we can, come together and push forward book distribution.
Well, I love the enthusiasm. I wrote a book called Our Family Business. I wrote, there's a lot of information there about organization, how to reach out to others, how to start a new team. It's got some history of book distribution, but many practical points about how to do these types of things. I do recommend taking the time to read it. It's a BBT book, so you can get that. We also have a website called distributebooks.com. And if you go there, we do put all the PowerPoints, videos. Our philosophy is to share with everybody as fast as possible. We want to export because we're one world team. We're all working together. There's nothing proprietary about this. So it's all there. And if you have questions, specific questions, you can contact us through that website, and we'll be happy to have somebody reach out to you and share with you whatever you want. We can even arrange for some experts to have a webinar with your people so that that you can get them up to speed. Every year for the last 5 years, we've been having invitational programs called SOS, Sankirtan Orientation Session, where people from all over the world come to ISV and to Toronto, and also we had in Dallas for 3-4 days and learn all the aspects of book distribution. Now we'll be having them online. So there are lots of resources that you can draw from, and we offer them to you with no hesitation.
And I know we're 5 minutes over the hour mark, Vaisesika Prabhu, but if you could indulge us for just a few more minutes, there's 2 more questions that I think we need to tackle. First is a statement from one of our dear devotees down here in South Africa, and this is an enthusiastic statement of what's been happening since the conference began. He writes, we have done 80 Bhagavad Gitas from last night now, only online via Facebook and WhatsApp. This was inspired by the BBT Africa conference and Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So already we're seeing devotees, going out and actually doing something.
Yeah, and it's, Prabhupada said that my books are sold by the enthusiasm of my devotees. Gopal Krishna Maharaj told me years ago about how he had this idea to sell books from a bookstore, so he invested a lot in setting up a display in one of the biggest bookstores in Delhi, and he arranged the whole thing. It went for a month, and it was a flop. So he went to a flop. He went to Prabhupada and told him that it didn't work, and Prabhupada said, this is because books are sold by the enthusiasm of my devotees. That's not ruling out selling books in bookstores. It's altogether possible these days. But the point was that it comes from the heart of the devotees and their enthusiasm.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Smita Krishna Prabhu, for your enthusiasm. And then finally, a Facebook question to Vaisesika Prabhu. Could you share the biggest challenge you have encountered distributing books? So personally, what has been your biggest challenge over the years distributing books?
It's just getting out the door. That's always the biggest challenge, because once you go out into the great unknown known as the public, and you start, then you realize, oh, I'm in the internal energy now. And I've seen it again and again that devotees hesitate to walk out the door because the mind says that something bad's going to happen. I'll be rejected, I'll have to perform, and things like that. So when we present seminars where we're taking devotees out, actually, we have this ritual where we say we're not going out to distribute books. We're going out to touch the pavement. And once you touch the pavement at your spot, together with your team, you're done for the day. You don't have to do anything else. No performance necessary. And if you happen to do anything extra by distributing a book, if you want to try it, that's up to you. Then no problem. And for instance, when we did this in Alachua, there were a lot of devotees that came that normally didn't want to go out or hadn't been out before, but when we did the touch the pavement ritual, it struck a chord, and they still do it to this day. 2.5 years later, they go out and they do the ritual first, touch the pavement. So the hardest thing for me is just getting out the door, because my mind will tell me, well, why don't you stay in today? Why go out and bother yourself? You have other better things to do, and so forth. So there are different ways to overcome that, but once I am able to cross the threshold of my door, my temple, get out of the car, or get on the phone now, then you're swept away by Krishna's enthusiastic promptings from within the heart. Keep going, this is good. But we have to do at least that much, get out the door or get on the phone.
Yeah. And with that, Vaisesika Prabhu, I want to thank you so much for joining us, availing yourself, giving us your time, giving us your wisdom through your experiences of book distribution. I know there are so many questions as well still coming in. Those questions, you carry on posting them online and carry on sending them via our social media channels as well. And we'll just carry on the discussion and working together to push forward book distribution. So thank you again so much, Vaisesika Prabhu. We'll be up again in the next 50 minutes with our final session entitled Timeless Wisdom for a New World. And our guest for that is His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj. And we'll basically sum up a lot of the meditations that have emerged from this conference, this 2-day conference that we've had. And the feeling that we want to leave everyone with is a feeling of enthusiasm to not only take the mercy that's in Srila Prabhupada's book for ourselves by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, but going out and sharing that with others. So we'll catch up with everyone at the top of the hour. That's 6 p.m. Central African time, and you can reference that from wherever you're watching from around the world. And we'll catch up again on our Zoom webinar and Facebook later on. Thank you so much again, Vaisesika Prabhu.
I'd like to make a final comment.
Yes.
Please keep in mind that the African Yatra rocks. Because of the leadership that you have there and the way that you're organizing, you are poised to become the number one distribution center of Prabhupada's books in the world. You're more organized than any other area of the world that I've ever seen as a whole. And I think that you have enough people there to attend to in Africa on the continent. Is that true, Mukundangri? To keep you busy, that is.
That is
so
very
those
true.
two things together, plus the high caliber of devotees that I've seen for myself in the African Yatra in general, is what I'm basing my prediction on. So please go on increasing, because it will bring great fortune to the people of Africa, and those who distribute books will have a place in the spiritual world that is unimaginably special by Krishna's mercy, because there's nobody more dear to Krishna than those who extend themselves to take a little suffering on their heads to alleviate the suffering of others by giving them the ultimate gift, which is transcendental knowledge. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Vaisesika Prabhu.
Gaur
Thank you.
Premanande Haribol.
Hari Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.